You come across an abandoned planet that was once inhabited by an advanced alien species. They left behind their wondrous facilities, incredible technologies, and you want to be the one who gets them. But you're not the only one here. Others have come to claim the wonders in Alien Frontiers Edition X, which was designed by Tori Neiman and Randall Bart and published by Tabletop Tycoon, who helped sponsor this video. Hi everybody, my name is Nick Murphy of the Brothers Murph. Well, I see some mind-blowing technologies that I've got to get my hands on, so let's get this game down to the table to learn how to play Alien Frontiers Edition X. In Alien Frontiers Edition X, players are spreading their influence across a planet, setting up colonies, and trying to gain control of the various regions. Players will roll and use their ships, which are dice, to activate the orbital facilities that are around the planet. And Edition X comes with 3 different modules. The Faction module gives the player asymmetric options and powers in the way of factions. The Outer Belt module adds asteroid cards, which give the players more ways to gather resources. And finally, the Agendas module adds secret objectives that will trigger during the game or for endgame scoring. But before we get into all that, let's go over the setup. We're going to set up and teach the classic game, but at the end of the video we'll go over what the modules bring in Edition X. Place the main board in the center of the table. Place the relic ship die in the Burroughs Desert territory in the middle of the board. Place each territory tile in its appropriate territory. Place the fuel tokens next to the solar converter here and the ore tokens near the lunar mine here. Take the alien tech cards and remove the cards with the outer belt symbol and the agenda symbol. These are 2 modules we'll talk about later. Shuffle the remaining tech cards, deal 1 to each player, and place the deck and 3 cards face up next to the alien artifact space here. Place the 3 field generators near the board. Each player chooses and places their scoring rocket on the score track. Each player takes 3 of their dice and places them on the board next to the maintenance bay and the remaining dice off to the side of the board near the shipyard. Each player will start with a certain amount of colony tokens. Take 6 in a 4 or higher player count game, 7 in a 3-player game, and all 8 in a 2-player game. Players all roll a die and the highest roll is the first player. The second player receives 1 fuel, player 3 receives 1 ore, and player 4 receives both a fuel and an ore. And now we're ready to begin. Play will naturally start with the first player. If at the beginning of your turn you have a ship at the terraforming station, return it to the shipyard supply here. You will then gather all of your ships from the board and roll them. Note that in the first round of the game you won't have any ships at the facility, so you'll instead gain your 3 ships from the maintenance bay. Also note that you don't take your ships back until the start of your next turn, so your ships will stay on the board blocking spaces for other players. After you roll all of your ships, you will dock them at the various orbital facilities around the board. If you can't or don't want to place a ship, you will place any excess in the maintenance bay. The docks around the board will have a certain amount of spaces that can hold ships, and note that some are only available at higher player counts. Most orbital facilities also require certain values or amounts of dice. At the solar converter, players will dock dice to get fuel. For each ship you dock here, you will gain fuel equal to half the value of the die rounded up. So if you placed a 6 and a 3 here, you would gain 3 and 2 for a total of 5 fuel. At the lunar mine, you must place a die that is equal to or higher in value than the highest die there, and you will gain an ore for every die you place there. So if a 3 was already there, you can place a 3 and a 5 to gain 2 ore. At the orbital market, you have to place 2 equal value dice, and you will then pay fuel equal to 1 of them to receive 1 ore. And you may trade as many times as you wish. So if you put 2 value 2 ships here, you can trade 2 fuel for 1 ore as many times as you like. At the Raiders outpost, you will dock a sequence of 3 dice like 1, 2, 3. Though if dice are already there, you're not blocked. You can simply put down a higher sequence like 3, 4, 5 to bump them out. After you dock, you may steal up to 4 resources from any mix of players and add them to your supply, or you may steal 1 tech card from any player. Speaking of tech cards, you can go to the alien artifact facility to gain tech cards. You may dock ships of any value here. For each ship you dock, you may cycle the face-up cards and discard them and then reveal 3 cards. After you cycle, if you have dice equal to or greater than 8, you may claim one of the tech cards. Note that you may not claim a tech card that you already have. We'll talk about what tech cards do in a moment. Alien Frontiers is all about controlling the territories, so we've got to get some colonies down on the planet, and there are a couple places we can do this. At the colony constructor, you may place 3 ships of equal value, and then you will pay 3 ore to place 1 of your unused colonies in any territory on the board. At the Colonist Hub, you can place a colony, but it will take a little while. 4 players may use the Colonist Hub simultaneously as it has 4 advancement tracks. If you don't already have a colony ship at the hub, the first ship you place there will place 1 of your unused colonies on the first advancement space. Each ship you place there either on this turn or a subsequent turn must be placed on the same track where you have a colony, and placing a ship here will advance the colony one space along the track. When the colony reaches the final space, you may pay 1 fuel and 1 ore at your convenience to place the colony in a territory. Note that you may not start another track if you already have a colony on one of the tracks. And if your last colony is in the colonist hub, you may still use the colony constructor or the terraforming station to place this last colony. Speaking of, you can go to the terraforming station where you will dock a ship of value 6, pay 1 fuel and 1 ore, and you will place one of your colonies anywhere on the board. Though note that the terraforming process is very demanding, and so your ship will be consumed and will be returned to the shipyard at the beginning of your next turn. Note that you may not do this if it would bring your total ships below 3. Whenever you place a colony on the planet through any method, you will gain a victory point. At the shipyard is where you'll get your ships back. You will place 2 ships of equal value to gain a new ship. If it's your 4th ship, it will cost 1 fuel and 1 ore. Your 5th ship will cost 2 and 2, and your 6th ship will cost 3 and 3. These new ships will go to the maintenance bay and will be available next round. Okay, so that is all the orbital facilities, but let's talk about the other aspects of the game. Many of these facilities will let you put out colonies. You are trying to gain control of these territories through your colonies. If you have more colonies in that area than any other player, you have control of that territory. You will gain an extra point and you will have access to that territory's bonus. Note that if players are tied for control, no one has control and no one gets the bonus or the point. And if you ever lose control of a territory, you will lose the point you gained for controlling it. So your points will fluctuate throughout the game. Let's quickly go over these bonuses. When you control the Asimov crater, you will move your colony 1 extra circle each time you dock more than 1 ship at the colonist hub. If you control the Bradbury Plateau, you will pay 1 less ore when you use the colony constructor. When controlling the Burroughs Desert, you can pay 1 fuel and 1 ore to take the relic ship, which is added to the maintenance bay and will be used by you as long as you have the bonus. This behaves like any other ship, it just has no color. The Heinlein Plains always makes the trading ratio 1-to-1 when you're at the orbital market, though you must still dock a pair of ships there. If you control the Herbert Valley, you pay 1 less fuel and ore when you use the shipyard. The Lem Badlands gains you an additional fuel when docking at the solar converter. The Van Vogt Mountains allows the first ship you dock at the lunar mine to be of any value. And finally, the Pole Mountains allows you to pay 1 less fuel when using tech cards. Speaking of, let's talk about these tech cards. Tech cards will change up the game a lot and give you many new options. You may use as many tech cards as you want on your turn, but you may use each tech card only once per round, and you may only use 1 discard power per round. Techs will either be abilities that you will have to pay for and then exhaust, or powerful one-time techs that you will discard. And some cards have both options. For example, the Booster Pod allows you to pay 1 fuel to increase the value of one of your unplaced dice, or you may discard it to remove a single field generator from a colony. Many cards will allow players to move, place, or remove the 3 field generators. The Isolation Field nullifies the territory's bonus. The Positron Field awards 1 extra victory point to the player controlling the territory it is in. And the Repulsor Field prevents colonies from being added to or removed from the territory it is in. Some tech cards like the Alien Monument and the Alien City give you straight up points. The game will end as soon as someone places their last colony on a territory on the planet. And in the base game, there is no endgame scoring, so when this happens, the player with the highest score wins. Now that we have talked about the base game, let's talk about the 3 modules that come in this edition. The Agenda expansion will give players secret objectives to go for. At the beginning of the game, players will gain 2 agenda cards. On the left side of the card is an in-game objective that the player will reveal when they achieve it. This will gain the player 1 victory point. The agenda on the right is an endgame objective that will be revealed at the end of the game and will grant the player 1 point if it's fulfilled. Note that players may only do one side of each objective card, so if you complete the in-game objective on a card, you cannot score the endgame objective on the same card. You may only have 3 agenda cards in the game, and you may not discard revealed ones. At the orbital market, you may now instead draw 2 agenda cards, then discarding down to 3. Also note that agenda cards are not tech cards and therefore may not be stolen by other players. The Outer Belt expansion adds another territory and asteroid cards. To set up, you will place the Outer Belt board to the right of the main board. Place the territory tile on the Blish territory. Shuffle the asteroid cards, return 2 to the box without looking at them, and then place 1 card face up on each space of the Outer Belt board. Finally, give the first player the asteroid die. At the beginning of each player's turn, they will roll the asteroid die along with their ship dice. If a blank is rolled, nothing happens. If an asteroid is rolled, all the asteroid cards will move down. The 4th card will go to the bottom of the asteroid deck, and all other cards are shifted down, and a new asteroid card is added to the first spot. 2 notes. 1. If there is a gap, maintain that gap. Do not bunch the cards together. And 2, do not move any ship dice with the cards, leave them where they are. You may dock ships at the outer belt to claim these asteroid cards. How many ships are required to claim the card is shown in the middle. So this card requires 3 dice. Which dice need to be docked depends on the card and its position on the outer belt board. Each space on the board has a standard navigation value. The first spot is 1 and 2, the second is 2, 3, 4, then 3, 4, 5, and finally 5 and 6. When you see the symbol on a card, you need to dock a die there that matches the value of the standard navigation value. So in this case, you would need 2 dice matching the standard navigation value. So since it's in the first spot, you would need 2 dice valued 1 or 2 to claim this card. And these can be a mix of the 2 values. But remember that these cards can shift, so next round you may need 2, 3, and 4. Though some cards require specific values on top of the standard navigation value or even matching values. Asteroid cards work much in the same way as tech cards and can be used or discarded for powerful effects. Note that some asteroid cards have this symbol with the red X. These may be used immediately, but most cards have this symbol without the red X, which means you are towing the asteroid and are not allowed to use the card until your next turn. Also, asteroid cards may be stolen by players who use the Raider's Outpost. The Blish Expanse territory works in the same way as other territories, and the bonus for controlling it is that you may now ignore the towing requirement on asteroid cards and you may use them immediately. And finally, the faction expansion gives each player a unique faction. During setup, randomly choose factions equal to the player count plus 1 and then give all faction boards to the last player. They will then choose one and pass it to the second to last player, and you'll do this until every player has a faction. Each faction has both an orbital facility and a special power given to its owner. Anyone may use this orbital facility, but if an opponent uses it, they must pay 1 fuel to its owner as an access fee. Let's quickly take a look at the Corax Conglomerated. At their facility, a player can dock a ship of any value and pay 2 fuel to gain 1 ore for every territory they control. And at the beginning of their turn, the owner of the faction receives 1 fuel plus 1 extra fuel for every territory they control. There are a number of different factions which I'll let you explore on your own, but know they're all laid out in detail in the back of the rulebook. And that is how you play Alien Frontiers Edition X and its modules. Alien Frontiers is all about trying to gain and maintain control of the territories and not lose points. There is very little to no endgame scoring, so losing a territory and therefore a point as the game is getting closer to finishing is a huge deal, and adding in the module adds many more options and gameplay opportunities. And if Alien Frontiers Edition X seems like something you'd enjoy, make sure to check it out at tabletoptycoon.com or on its BGG page. And until next time, I've been Nick Murphy, and that is how you play Alien Frontiers Edition X.